What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we got a lot to talk about. I'm doing an in-depth, deep dive breakdown, whatever words you want to use, regarding the 2021 free agents that the Rangers signed. This is not going to be a season review, just only focusing on the free agents that they signed. So this is the baseball reference page for the Rangers. 7th in the AL in attendance, by the way. Not too shabby. But you'll notice some faces on here that are a part of that free agent list. The ones I'm going to be covering, of course, are Marcus Semien, Martin Perez, Corey Seager, Cole Calhoun, and then John Gray, who is on the right here. Obviously, Cole Calhoun did not make the top 12 players, and we'll take a look at his stats here shortly. But starting things off, I think he was the first big signing, or relatively big free agent signing that they made last year. This article is dated late night on November 30th, and they signed him, let's see, where is the actual number on here? $5.2 million with a club option for 5.5 in 2023. So he made about $5 million this year. And he had some good seasons before coming here. Was, of course, injured, and including getting surgery. So let's take a look at his numbers then while we're on the topic. And that's how I'm going to kind of go through this video. So Cole Calhoun, here he is. If you're one of the people that only looks at WAR, that's really all you need to know. Minus 1.5. Oh, he just turned 35. Happy late birthday to Cole Calhoun. But a negative WAR, not great. Sub 200 batting average. None of these numbers are good, really. It was unfortunate because I had some high hopes for him. You know, he is a Gold Glover, so he was pretty good in the outfield at the very least. But 67 OPS plus. I like to always explain it, but for those who aren't aware, the league average OPS plus is 100. So it more or less means he was 33% worse than the average hitter, I think is what that would translate to, but I digress. So I think that signing was unfortunately a bust. You can see it. It mentioned 2019, you know. He's always been a Rangers killer. 33 home runs for the Angels not too long ago. Pretty good season for only playing 54 games in 2020, as it were only a 60-game season. And then had the injury in 2021 with a recovery, so it just didn't quite work out for him or for the Rangers. And you can dig into some of the advanced stats here, but strikeouts went way up. Batting average on balls put in play was pretty low. It's just not great. But if we look at his fielding, though, this should be pretty good, I would think. He played all three outfield positions for Texas. Look at that, 1,000 fielding percentage in 100 games. That is kind of what they were paying for, to be honest with you. Because at the time, and still sort of is the case, guys like Leody Taveras and Bubba Thompson and whoever else were either not up or not ready yet. You can see as well here, league fielding percentage this year, I assume at outfield specifically, was 989. So you can't beat making literally no errors the entire season. All right, this is, no errors. So that's really all I have to say about Cole Calhoun. I wish it would have worked out better, but, it was what it was. And all these websites have so many ads on them. But yeah, that is Cole Calhoun. So, of course, the next huge free agent that blew the baseball world out of the water was Texas getting Corey Seager. There you go. There was the tweet announcing it. 10 years, $325 million on the same day that they signed Marcus Semien, and we'll get into that. 27 years old, at the time of signing. Obviously led the Dodgers to the World Series, won in the World Series MVP. Granted, I've been pretty vocal about my opinions on the 2020 playoffs, but that's for a different video maybe. So, there was nothing really going wrong with this signing. He was one of the best free agent shortstops out there. Other options included Carlos Correa, who decided to sign a 1-year deal with the Twins and then just opted out of it this offseason. As soon as the season ended, he's like, yeah, I'm not staying here, or if I am, you better pay me more. So let's take a look at how Corey Seager did in 2022. Third on the team in wins above replacement, which is a very commonly used stat these days. All these are good numbers. The only one that may alarm you compared to his career stat line is OPS and batting average, but we'll dig into that as well. OPS plus, still well above league average. Pretty good on base, even stole a few bases as well, but we'll get into the numbers here. So, yes, Corey Seager had his worst batting average that he's ever had, but these days especially, you cannot use that stat as the end-all be-all, If we look, like I mentioned, OPS plus, well above league average. It was down from last year, but part of that is because of the batting average. He actually walked one of the most times he ever has, but did strike out over 100 times. Still, though, these days, that's actually not bad. Guys like Joey Gallo and all these huge power hitters strike out 200 times easily a season. And the home runs will be the glaring number this year. He had 26 in his first full season, a couple times got close to 20, and then suddenly breaks out 33. This, in my opinion, is the reason that his batting average went down. He started hitting more home runs, and not everyone is able to hit 300 and still hit 30 home runs. So that was the big reason, I believe. And still got really great numbers in all other categories. 270 total bases, one of the highest of his entire career, actually since his Rookie of the Year season. So he was producing in this lineup, and that is all that really matters. Even hit a triple, showing off the wheels a little bit. He also almost played every single game. Was just 11 shy. They gave him a couple days off at the end of the year. All things considered, though, I think this is a pretty good season for someone not only switching leagues, but signing a massive contract, which often there's a lot of pressure on these guys. And it's not an excuse necessarily, but there's always pressure on these guys. And you're coming to this new town, you're on this team that's like basically signing you to be their savior, and then they expect you to deliver. What I will say, though, is this 33 home runs is the single season record for a left-handed shortstop. So he made some history in his first year with Texas at the very least. But yeah, I wouldn't let the batting average scare you too much. The slugging was the second lowest he's ever had, so that's a little bit concerning because that was only a season where he played 26 games. However, 1 year cut him some slack. He did go to the All-Star game, which is still surprising to me that someone from the Rangers got voted in somewhat normally, I think, because they had Martin Perez, of course, was the guy from our team, and then I think Seager did get a backup spot on the All-Star roster. So I've been rambling way too long about Corey Seager, but I'll wrap this up here. What will get people, though, is the fielding numbers. Look at all these postseasons. Hopefully he can add some more here next year. But this right here is what concerns people, the fielding. So we take a look. 144 games at shortstop. I felt like he DH'd a lot more, honestly, but I guess he only had 7 games at DH. So 972 fielding percentage. According to this, that lines up at average, but you don't pay a guy $33 million to be an average defensive shortstop, right? And he had 17 errors, which is not great. Did have a lot of innings, but you can see this season here, 155 games. Okay, well, that was a bad example. The point is, he has never been super strong in the fielding category. I mean, his highest fielding percentage is 979 in a full season. And this year was actually on the better end. A negative defensive run saved this year. But, you know, I've been telling people, a guy like Corey Seager, you're not paying for his glove. You're paying for him to stay healthy, and you want him to do some of these numbers here. You want him to hit 300. You want him to hit 20-plus home runs. Well, that wasn't home runs, but you get my point. You want him to hit 20 to 30 home runs a year, have the slugging, hit some extra base hits. So that's what you want from a guy like Corey Seager. And I think he did all right, given everything. He's still only 28, so I think next year he'll officially be entering his age 29 season. And that is getting to the prime of most athletes. So I think people are being too critical of Corey Seager. I can't defend his glove because the numbers speak for themselves, and I'm a big numbers guy. He's made some slick plays, though, but I can't really defend that. It's obvious that he needs to, well, I guess it's a little late to improve on it maybe, but try to get a little bit better. So I digress. Next big free agent on the same day, Rangers dropped $500 million in commitments on the same day. And the next guy was Marcus Semien, who was on the Blue Jays, better known by us fans as on the A's. We saw him a lot with Oakland. 7 years, 175. I remember feeling kind of mixed about this because I'm like, that's a lot for Marcus Semien, who's 32, just recently turned 32. And the numbers showed up for themselves with the Blue Jays. You know, he had 45 home runs, All-Star appearance, Silver Slugger, Gold Glove Awards. So they wanted him to be kind of more of the veteran guy, I guess, in this situation. Despite how he started, because we'll get into that as well, he is the team leader in wins above replacement, beating out even Martin Perez, even Nathaniel Lowe, who went on a tear at the end of the year, and even El Bombi himself. So let's get into those stats. 248 batting average, which was actually about on par with Seager. 26 home runs, 83 driven in, stole 25 bags, and still decently above average league OPS plus. So you look at those numbers and you're like, that's not a bad season. He's never been a batting average guy, so you can't sign him expecting him to hit 300, right? But you're paying for this durability. This is what I wanted to talk about with Marcus Semien. 2019, every game. 2021, every game. 2022, every game. 2016, 18, and 15 played almost every game, and then I assume a couple injury-prone seasons and a shortened season, and then his rookie seasons, two first seasons. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out with Marcus Semien was he is durable. 10 sacrifice flies. I was wondering what stat that was. And that is huge. But yeah, he put up a 25-25 season. And like I mentioned, the way he started out was concerning to everyone. I don't know. I guess we can pull up the game logs here. Should be able to see 2022 game logs if we take a look. I'm going to pause this video again Maybe not. Okay. Nope. Oh, I opened an ad. We're just going to leave that how it is. Yeah, so if we take a look at his game log, he was hitting well below 200 as late as May. This is batting average column here. Let's see. Highest he was at was 255 on September 29th. And apart from literally opening day, let's take a look here. June. He cracked 200, I guess, sometime in June. It was 199 on May 31st. And then he was pretty steady around 240 to 250, but yeah, that was super concerning for everyone because, you know, you just signed this guy to a huge deal and now he's batting well below 200. So I don't know why these ads keep popping up. But yeah, Marcus Semien, a fine player, no doubt. Next year, I'm sure he'll do even better. He got 1 year under his belt, struggled through the early part of the season. He had 1 game off, which I thought was incredible because you just saw going into June, he was hitting below 200, and he was playing every single game, which I guess is a testament to how much they trust him in signing him because it's not a good look if the guy you just signed to a $200 million contract is getting benched all the time. Probably not a good look. And not just to everyone else, to the guy himself. You're like, okay, you don't trust me, so I guess, maybe I shouldn't have signed this contract. Looking at the defensive metrics, though, here he is at second base, 989 fielding percentage, a little bit above the league average. 7, I always get confused with these. I think it's this one. 13 defensive runs saved, pretty good. Was not so good at shortstop, but it's not his main position. They pretty much just did that so Seager could DH without having to put someone else there. And yeah, not much else to really say about Marcus Semien. I think he's doing all right, and he should be doing a lot better next year. It was a similar case with Seager. He wasn't starting off too hot either, and by the time the end of the season hit, they were on what may be more of a normal pace you could expect. So, only 2 more left. This video is way longer than I thought it would be, but I tend to ramble quite a lot. So next free agent would be John Gray, and this was actually a signing I was kind of mixed on it, but I was sort of excited as well because, yeah, his career numbers are not great, but it was Coors Field, and he was durable. He got a lot of strikeouts. He had a good slider, all that stuff. So his deal was, okay, it doesn't say the number, but it's 4 years. Covers through the 2025 season. He will certainly be here by then. So let's take a look at the numbers. Here he is. Sub 4 ERA. Started 24 games. Had some injury problems. But still ended up having a really good whip. 1.13 compared to his career whip of 1.31. And we'll dive into that here. You see all of his numbers with Colorado. The ERA itself, none of those are pretty numbers. 2017 is actually solid. But similar to OPS plus, oh boy. Similar to OPS plus, if you take a look at ERA plus, it is ballpark adjusted. It factors in all of those things. So really, minus, was that 3 seasons? He's been above or around league average. This year he was just below. And I think if he was healthy the whole time, he would have been on it. But here as well, strikeouts to walks, pretty good this year, better than 2021. And he had a lot of ups and downs, but the walks were controlled. 39 walks compared to 134 strikeouts in 130 innings. That's not bad, right? And then the interesting one I always like to look at is the FIP, fielding independent pitching, which is basically like if you had perfect fielders, what would your ERA be? So this says 3.8 compared to some of the previous years. So I think it was a good first year for John Gray, entering that prime as well, like I mentioned with Corey Seager. Once you get into late 20s, early 30s, that's the physical prime, as they say. But yeah, I think this deal is going to work out well. You'll have John Gray, you'll have Jack Leiter soon, hopefully Martin Perez next year, eventually Kumar Rocker, tons of guys on the way, Owen White, Cole Raggins, Cole Wynn. I just want to blank on his name. But yeah, he's good. So apparently, I didn't even know Colorado made the wild card game recently, but he gave up 4 runs in an inning, so we'll just not talk about that. Curious about fielding. For pitchers, it's a totally different ball game, no pun intended, but looks like he had 1,000 fielding percentage, no errors, but somehow negative runs. Interesting. So that's really all I have to say about John Gray, though. When you actually look at the numbers, he did better than you may have think he did, and he also was injured a lot. So, or not a lot, but a fair amount. He still managed to get 24 starts. So that's really it for John Gray. And last but certainly not least is the return of Martin Perez to Texas. Just 1 year, $4 million. And is this for the whole? Okay, yeah, this is for the whole season. Yeah, 12-8 with a 2.89 ERA, 32 starts, just under 200 innings pitched, and a WHIP of 1.25. Because Perez is a big contact guy, so he's never necessarily going to have a low WHIP. But if we just sort pretty much any of his numbers on here, best ERA ever, second most innings pitched. Didn't know he did that in 2016. Let's see. Second best win-loss percentage, second most wins. I mean, he's putting up full career numbers. So it was a good year for Perez. And he's always been fairly durable, at least in the more recent seasons when he was in Minnesota and Boston, and then came back around to Texas. But they got him for quite a good price. I mean, not that at the time this was his track record, so you weren't going to give him too much. This deal I wasn't sure about when it happened. However, it was cheap enough that I'm like, worst case scenario, they just don't sign him again. But absolutely remarkable season for Martin Perez. First All-Star game, deservedly so. Where are the strikeouts on here? 169 strikeouts, most by a mile. And he did have that game against Houston. I think that was the shutout. That was really fun to watch because he was just on top of it. He totally owned that lineup in that game. So, really great stuff. And just for fun, we'll look at his fielding too, because we've done that with everyone so far. He had a 926 fielding percentage with 2 errors. But 0 defensive runs. Those metrics never make sense to me. The fielding ones, I've never quite wrapped my head around. But there you have it, y'all. That is my in-depth breakdown of each of the stats for the biggest free agents. Biggest free agents that the Rangers signed in 2021. And it's good news when 4 of the 5 are in your top 10 players. That is the whole point of going out and getting these guys. Technically, there's some ones I didn't talk about. Matt Moore was technically a free agent signing, I believe. And he ended up finishing still pretty strong in 2022, 63 games. They traded him to Milwaukee, I thought. Wasn't he in one of those trades? Am I making that up? Did he not pitch after that? I don't know. But he had a great season with us this year. Those may remember in 2018 they tried to make him a starter, I think, and that did not work out very well. But he found his niche in the bullpen, so good for him, And I think everyone else on this list was already there. So Jonah Heim was there. Nathaniel Lowe, first baseman, for sure of the future right now. I mean, he's only 27, and he just hit 300 with 27 home runs. So I don't want to get too off track here, but for the 5 guys they just signed in your top 10, that is how you start building a team. So let me know what y'all think. If you agree with my takes on these players that they signed, and we'll get into some more season recaps. I've been watching the playoffs, so I've been just taking some time off here to watch the playoffs. But I got season recaps. I got predictions for who they're going to sign, who they might trade for, how 2023 is going to go, all that good stuff. So stay tuned, and I will talk to y'all later.